Hey everybody, Rob Maurer here. Welcome back to Tesla Daily. Today we are talking about a really recent update on the Model S and Model X. This just came out right before this episode. And then we do have some updates on China, some of those a little bit older as we did miss the Friday episode, but I want to talk about a couple of those items. We'll keep things pretty brief because as you can probably tell already, my voice is not fully with me today, so apologize if I can't make it through, but we'll do my best, and thanks for your patience on that. All right, so looking at the stock, Tesla today, not the best start to the week, down 1.2%, closing at $239.76, while the NASDAQ was up 1% on the day today. So definitely an underperformance from Tesla and kind of a rough run here since the Q2 earnings report, but that has kind of continued. We'll see if anything changes tomorrow, as we do have a pretty significant update here to the Model S and Model X, with Tesla introducing the standard range version for both vehicles. So the pricing in the US is starting at $78,490 for the Model S and $88,490 for the Model X. So both of these are $10,000 cheaper than the previous opening prices for for these vehicles. The Model S has a 320-mile range estimate. The Model X at 269 miles. These are with the base wheels. So if you are in the design studio and you do change the wheels, obviously the range is going to decline, as we see on the other trims as well. That drops down to 298 miles for the Model S with the upgraded wheels, and I think 255 for the Model X. So obviously lower range vehicles. In terms of the acceleration, top speed, those things are a little bit lower as well. What's interesting here is that the weight for both of these vehicles is the same as the current, or the prior opening price point versions. So the Plaid is a little bit heavier, as we can see. Weight drops down there, so 4,776 pounds on the Plaid Model S versus the normal Model S at 4,560. That weight is maintained as we shift over to the standard range. So unless something is wrong here, and this is the same for the Model X as well, then it would appear that these would be sort of the same vehicles with only software updates, potentially limiting acceleration and range. We've seen Tesla do this in the past. It's been a while since they have employed this strategy, but based on these weights, that does kind of seem to be the case right now. Obviously, this allows Tesla to move a little bit further down the price band while still hopefully having some people opt up into these higher priced versions that really want that additional range or better performance and things like that, which could help the margins, be a little bit higher than just outright lowering the prices completely. So we'll see. Tesla will probably, see what the take rate is, see what the order rate is, and use that to make pricing decisions going forward. I would imagine that this is not, a long-term, a very long-term strategy for Tesla to do that software locking. Maybe over time they would actually reduce the battery capacity, which would save weight, obviously save cost as well. But for right now, it does appear that this would be a software limited vehicle. Obviously, we don't necessarily have any confirmation of that, but an interesting strategy. So this will obviously hurt the margin on the S and the X, but hopefully allow Tesla to keep costs per vehicle down by allowing them to sell, their entire production run, which I think is probably what Tesla is trying to do with these updates. It's also kind of interesting for the Model X. We're not too far out now from this being able to qualify for the $7,500 tax credit. The cap for SUVs is $80,000. So the standard range X right now at $88,490. It's still a ways off, but moving in that direction, and conceivably Tesla could get that down there. But obviously they would probably want that to not be a software locked vehicle that they're trying to sell for $100,000, but more of a lower range, lower battery type of vehicle. So we'll see. Obviously it's not the best sign for S and X demand, but I think we've talked on a number of different occasions now about how there's been a couple of signs of weakness there. So I'm not too surprised by this, other than the implementation, possibly including that software lock. Obviously that does allow Tesla different capabilities over time. They can resell that vehicle down the road as a full range vehicle. If it were to be traded back into Tesla, they could also offer capabilities for unlocking the additional range, additional acceleration, like we have seen them do on these software locked vehicles before. So we'll keep an eye out for that and see if there are any other updates on that, but that's kind of what we know at this moment. All right, moving on to a few updates out of China. We do have lower prices for the Model Y and a little bit for the Model 3. We'll start with the Model Y though. Prices have been reduced to 300,000 and 350,000 RMB. These are 14,000 RMB reductions, or about $1,900 US for just the long range and performance Model Ys in China. So decent price cuts, but because this is not on the standard range version, obviously the standard range version is going to be the high volume vehicle. So what this could do is, aside from just the price cuts on, these more expensive vehicles, it could shift the mix a little bit more towards those more expensive, presumably higher margin vehicles, which could mitigate, maybe not completely, but mitigate the effect of that price reduction, as then more people are opting for these higher price vehicles that maybe otherwise would have picked a standard range when that price gap is wider. So that's something that Tesla is just going to, again, similar to what we talked about with the S and the X, they're just going to have to see how orders come in. But that would be something that will, again, offset a little bit of the price cut that we're seeing on the Model Y higher end trims. Now for the Model 3, they're introducing an 8,000 RMB, or about $1,100 US insurance subsidy. So we've seen this before. It's in partnership with third-party insurers, not with Tesla insurance. But if buyers opt in for insurance with one of those third-party insurers, they are eligible for an 8,000 RMB discount. The interesting thing about this is that it runs through the end of the quarter, through September 30th. Obviously, right now, there's a lot of focus and rumors and attention on whether or not Tesla is updating the Model 3. And obviously with Project Thailand, all of those rumors. Obviously, as we talked about before, there should be, we should get a little bit more answers on whether or not those rumors are sort of confirmed this week. A lot of those centered in this sort of second, third week of August. So we'll keep an eye out very closely for updates on that. But this subsidy going through the end of the quarter, I think, makes it a little bit less likely that we start to see Tesla selling a Highland or an updated Model 3 before that period of time, because it would be a little bit weird for them to have this new vehicle and immediately introduce it with sort of a discount or a perk or something like that. So kind of makes me think that if we do see that it would be a little bit later. But again, we'll keep an eye on things throughout this week. I did also want to talk briefly about production. So I tweeted this on Friday. But as we can see, production for Tesla out of Giga Shanghai in July was just over 80,000 vehicles, so pretty much flat month over month. But it was the second best month ever for Model Y production, and that was about 57,600, up about 5,000 vehicles from the prior month, and then the drop coming from the Model 3 of about 5,000 vehicles to even that out. So a little bit lower Model 3 production, not anything indicative of some huge complete refresh or anything like that, but maybe some things that are in preparation causing that Model 3 number to be a little bit lower for July. So again, we didn't expect there to be, some all-out pause just based on what we've seen at the factory, but it is interesting to see that drop a little bit. It's about 11% below the year-to-date average. The other thing interesting here is that obviously with the wholesale sales number that we had previously had, 64,000 wholesale sales, the production of 80,000 significantly higher. So Tesla did grow their inventory by 16,000 vehicles in the first month. As we can see, that's not out of line with where things have come in historically. It's not unusual by any means, but I'm glad to see that the production number was still so high with the wholesale sales number being a little bit lower. There will probably be a month now in the future where we see that flip, where that inventory gets drawn down. Usually that's been in the last month of the quarter, or I guess occasionally is probably a better way to say that, but occasionally we see that happen in the last month of the quarter where that inventory gets drawn down. That definitely happened in June. So interesting with the production number there, and I'm glad to see that it was still quite high. And then the last couple of things, Joe Tagmeyer has spotted a number of Cybertrucks. We continue to see more and more of these. Obviously the sightings continue, but at Giga Texas, looks like pretty obviously here, 9 different Cybertrucks sitting in the parking lot under covers. So good to see these starting to multiply. And then just kind of a fun one to end on. Looks like this dropped out here, but getting into the TikTok video, we can see that there is a Cybertruck here on a trailer, and it is being pulled by a Tesla Semi, which is, I think, a sight that many of us have hoped to see since 2019 when we kind of originally saw both of these vehicles. So a lot of fun to see that, and hopefully something that we see a lot more of in the future. But that'll wrap it up for today. So as always, thank you for listening. Make sure you're subscribed and signed up for notifications. You can also find me on X or Twitter at Tesla Podcast. And we'll see you tomorrow for the Tuesday, August 15th episode of Tesla Daily. Thank you.